She thought no human could impress her. Then she met him. Dane charges down the corridor, boots pounding against the grated metal floor with every forceful step. Overhead, flickering emergency lights cast sporadic flashes of harsh illumination, catching the sheen of sweat on his bare arms. Smoke chokes the air from a small blast that rocked the station just seconds ago. Debris crunches under his heels, and his heart thunders in his ears as he rounds the corner. 3 armed soldiers rush toward him, tactical visors reflecting crimson. Lights from the sirens. He doesn't hesitate. He flexes his fingers, like a predator testing claws, before ripping his pulse pistol from its holster. A flurry of beams sears the walls. Dane answers with precise shots that strike 2 soldiers squarely in the chest. Their armor sizzles on impact, sending them crashing to the deck with sharp metallic thuds. The 3rd soldier leaps aside, but Dane is quicker, lunging with such ferocity that his broad shoulder collides with the man's torso, slamming him into a wall. Steel meets flesh in a sickening crack, and the soldier collapses. Dane doesn't even glance back. The overhead alarms keep wailing. He knows there's no time to waste. Every second he's here, hunting his target, the station's security is tightening its noose. He moves with lethal grace, every muscle in his powerful frame coiled in readiness. A lifetime of combat, mercenary missions, rogue ops, back alley, brawls, has sculpted him into a force of nature, unstoppable except by death itself. The scars etched into his arms and across his shoulders, each mark a battle survived. He exhales, feeling the tightness in his chest, that electric thrill of danger that ignites him more than any comfort or promise of safety ever could. Another door hisses open ahead, leading deeper into the labyrinth. Before he can take another step, something flickers in the corner of his eye, a slender shape perched in the overhead scaffold. He tenses. The station's low lighting plays tricks on the senses, but he's certain something, or someone, is there. Slowly, methodically, he circles, scanning the rails and catwalks above. But whatever it is, it remains unseen. He curses under his breath and forges ahead. He arrives in a wide corridor where fluorescent strips illuminate hulking crates stacked to the ceiling. He's expecting to see more soldiers. Instead, he finds a single figure standing in the dim glow. A woman with skin that gleams an otherworldly shade of emerald under the harsh lights. Her hair drapes over one shoulder, dark as a starless void, and her eyes shift color in a hypnotic slow dance, never settling on a single hue. She's dressed in tight, form-fitting attire that seems both battle-ready and strangely elegant. Small arcs of luminous energy flicker across her bare arms as she cocks her head, lips curled into a knowing smile. Dane feels a jolt of tension snap between them. He recognizes at once that this is no ordinary encounter. The way she holds herself, calm but poised to strike, reminds him of a predatory cat. Her presence feels electrifying, as if the air itself hums around her. He tightens his grip on the pistol, aiming it squarely at her center of mass, but she shows no fear. "I'd put that away if I were you," she purrs, her voice resonating with a subtle vibration that skitters across his nerves. He doesn't lower his weapon, meeting her intense gaze with one of his own. "Who the hell are you?" Zyra. Her name slips through the air like silk. She taps a dagger against her thigh, its blade reflecting the blinking lights. "And I'd guess you're the one they call Dane. I've been following your trail." He doesn't know how she obtained that information, but he keeps his expression unmoved. "You want to step aside? I've got a job to do." She laughs, low and haunting. "Yes, I've noticed. You're chasing someone I'm chasing, too, though you don't look like the type to handle this with any subtlety. I handle things my way." He shifts his weight, muscles coiling. "Move." She raises an eyebrow, and her skin pulses a deeper green. A faint electric hum, almost imperceptible, radiates from her. "We're after the same man. Maybe we don't need to kill each other just yet." He's silent, analyzing. Her stance is perfect, balanced, like she can vanish or attack in the blink of an eye. Another time, he might have tested her reflexes, just to see how fast she really is. But now, with so much on the line, forging a temporary alliance might be the only way to reach their shared target first. Gunshots echo from a hallway behind her. She spares only a brief glance over her shoulder. Dane hears the stomping of many boots, reinforcements. If they linger, they'll be pinned down. He clenches his jaw, holstering his pistol with a swift movement. "Fine, we do this together. For now." Her lips twitch with an impish grin, but she says nothing else, merely nods and takes off at a dead sprint. Dane follows, surprised at how she nearly blurs, her boots silent against the deck plating. She weaves through crates, heading toward a sealed hatch. She presses her palm against a scanner, and electricity crackles as she overrides it with a touch. The door whooshes open, revealing another corridor lit by flickering overheads, cables dangling from the ceiling like mechanical vines. They bolt through, footsteps echoing in tandem. Alarm klaxons drown out their breath, and the entire station seems to tremble with chaotic energy. Together, They pass shattered glass panels and the occasional body of a station guard. Dane wonders at the precise cuts on the guards, thin lines across their throats that show they never had a chance. So Zira was here before him, carving her way through with her daggers while he stormed in with brute force. A grudging admiration sparks in him, though he's far from letting his guard down. They come upon a large metal blast door, sealed tight. Dane works the manual controls, but it's locked down. He slams his palm against the surface, cursing. They've sealed off the deeper sectors. She steps beside him, placing her palm against the access panel. Her skin flickers, the emerald hue shifting gold for an instant, and the panel sparks. The door groans as locking mechanisms release. "Stand back," she says. A final jolt of energy arcs through her hand, and the door slides open with a tortured squeal. Beyond is a large bay filled with scaffolding and overhead walkways, wires looping across the ceiling in chaotic tangles. The space is ablaze with rotating red lights. At the far end, a group of heavily armed soldiers stands guard around a single man. He's short, stocky, and wearing a high-collared coat. Judging by the crisp uniform and the expensive sidearm on his hip, he must be the high-value target both Dane and Zira seek. She crouches beside a crate, scanning the environment. Dane does the same. They trade a glance, exchanging a silent understanding. The plan is wordless. Flank from opposite sides, sow confusion, converge on the target. Dane moves first, darting between crates, his large frame surprisingly nimble. One of the soldiers spots him and shouts. Gunfire rips through the air. Bullets ricochet off metal surfaces, sparks and smoke filling the bay. Dane vaults over a barricade, returning fire. He takes out 2 men with clean headshots. Meanwhile, from the corner of his eye, he sees Zira slip behind a pillar and disappear into the shadows. One soldier fires frantically where he thinks she's gone, but it's futile. In an instant, she appears behind him, blade flashing. He crumples, gurgling. Explosions rock the bay as stray rounds hit volatile canisters. Flames burst out along one wall, throwing orange light across the floor. Smoke billows thick and black, stinging Dane's eyes. He powers through, dropping another guard with a well-placed shot. A bullet whizzes past his cheek, grazing him and drawing a thin line of blood. He snarls, ignoring the pain, adrenaline pumping through his veins. At the center of the chaos stands their target, the man frantically shouting into a communicator. He's panicking. Dane locks onto that fear and charges. More guards attempt to intercept, but Zira materializes from the swirling smoke, her daggers gleaming. She slides low, slicing at ankles, then leaps up with an almost balletic pivot, bringing a second blade across a soldier's chest. Blood sprays as she spins away, her eyes glinting with fierce intensity. She's lethal and beautiful, a combination Dane never expected to encounter at a time like this. Their gazes connect for a fraction of a second. Sparks fly between them. Heat, challenge, something he can't put into words. He refocuses on the mission, bulls forward, and slams into the target. The man screams as Dane wrenches the communicator from his hand and pins him against a cargo crate. "It ends here," Dane growls, pressing the muzzle of his pistol to the man's temple. Zira reappears at his side, her skin radiating that golden shimmer. "Wait," she hisses. "Don't pull that trigger yet." He glances at her sharply. The tension is high. A single twitch, and the man in his grip is dead. "Why?" She exhales, and her tone drips with frustration. "I need him alive. There's information in his mind. Information I've been sent to retrieve. Kill him now, and I lose it." Dane's jaw tightens. "And I lose my paycheck if I let him walk." The man in his grasp thrashes, but Dane's hold is iron. Zira looks at him pointedly. "Think. The authorities who put that bounty on him, what do they really want? Documents. Answers. They'd pay more if you return him alive, trust me." He studies her, reading her face. She radiates sincerity, but also caution. She could be lying. Still, something about her hits him like a sledgehammer. The fierce competence in her posture, the unwavering directness in her shifting eyes, the electric hum emanating from her body. He realizes that he's never encountered anyone quite like this. Finally, with a grunt, he lowers his gun. The man whimpers in relief. "Fine," Dane mutters. "But if he tries anything," Zyra smirks. "He won't." She takes a small device from her belt, pressing it against the side of the man's skull. He jerks, pupils dilating. She closes her eyes, and for a moment, the color in her skin flares a brighter, pulsing green. Dane hears a faint sizzle. The man trembles, eyes rolling back. Then the device beeps, and she withdraws it. "Got it," she says, slipping the device into a pouch. "And that's all you needed?" Dane growls. He flings the man to the ground. "What about me?" A new thunder of footsteps reverberates behind them. Reinforcements. The stations. Security is back in force. Dine and Zyra exchange an exasperated glance. She gestures to a side exit. "We should leave, unless you want to take on another wave." He hauls the target upright. "He's coming with us." With that, they sprint toward the exit, the unconscious man slung over Dane's shoulder. A hail of gunfire chases them, bullets clanging off pipes. They reach the door and crash through it. More corridors stretch out ahead of them, twisting and labyrinthine. Sweat mats Dane's hair to his forehead. They run, alarms still blaring, until they reach a docking bay where a battered shuttle is anchored. Several bodies of station guards are strewn around. Zyra's handiwork from earlier. She taps a console, lowering the hatch. Together, they shove their captive inside. Dane collapses into the pilot's seat, flipping switches. Engines whine to life. Zyra slides into the co-pilot's chair, her gaze scanning the bay's readouts, with practiced efficiency. The station's defense systems lock onto them. Red icons swirl across the screens, signifying multiple turrets and fighter drones. Dane curses under his breath. "Strap in." He slams the throttle, and the ship lurches violently, lifting off the deck in a swirl of dust. Pulses of energy fire from the station's cannons, sizzling past them in brilliant streaks. The entire shuttle trembles as Dane evades. Zyra tightens, her harness, eyes narrowing. "We won't last long against that array." Dane's hands fly across the controls, coaxing as much speed from the engines as possible. He sets a course for open space, weaving between beams that glance off the shields. Outside the viewport, the swirling cosmos beckons. The moment they breach the station's perimeter, a new volley of projectiles rains down. They squeak by, the edges of the hull scorching. With a final surge, they clear the range of the turrets, the stars stretching out in front of them in a majestic sprawl. He exhales a ragged breath, shoulders burning from tension. Zyra unbuckles, standing with a fluid grace, her every movement an exercise in lethal elegance. They glance at each other. Relief flickers between them, followed by a new awareness that they are, for the moment, alone. Aside from the unconscious man groaning in the cargo hold, Dane turns his gaze to the controls. "Let's drop him off somewhere," he mutters, "and collect the bounty. Then we can go our separate ways." Her lips quirk, eyes shifting from green to a subtle yellow. "You honestly think it'll be that easy? What I took from him isn't just data. It's going to draw a lot of attention from some dangerous people. You might be caught in the crossfire." He rolls his shoulders. "I can handle myself." She huffs, crossing her arms over her chest. "I can see that. But it would be foolish to ignore what's coming. The factions involved will want him, and whatever's in his head, at any cost." Dine studies her. Something in him wants to push her away, to keep his life simple. Yet he's drawn to her energy, a gravitational pull he's never felt before. He can't deny the synergy they had in battle, and there's an allure, a physical tension that tightens his gut. "So what are you suggesting?" She tilts her head, hair cascading to one side. "I'm suggesting a partnership until this is over, until we're both safe from the blowback." He grunts, rubbing the back of his neck, and a flicker of heat travels through him as he remembers the sight of her in combat. The lithe precision, the electricity dancing along her skin. It was mesmerizing, unsettling. A partnership, right? Her tone lowers. We'll split the bounty on him. Then, together, we'll figure out our next move. If we part ways too soon, we might both get hunted down. He considers. The idea of trusting someone again, especially an alien assassin, grates against his solitary instincts. But she's right. Forces bigger than both of them are circling, and he can't fight them alone. She, on the other hand, can infiltrate places he can't, manipulate systems he doesn't understand. It's an advantage he'd be foolish to reject. Deal, he says at last. For now. Her smirk is faint. She moves past him, the subtle scent of her, an exotic spice, lingering. In the air, he fights a strange urge to grab her wrist, spin her around, and see if those shifting eyes of hers ever settle when she's taken by surprise. It's a ridiculous notion, so unlike him, and he banishes the thought. He shifts focus, charting a course toward a fringe outpost known for black market deals and discreet authorities who might handle their prisoner for a fee. The flight is tense. They speak little. Diane keeps an eye on the scanners, worried some patrol might come gunning for them. Zira checks on their unconscious captive, occasionally tapping her device to glean more from his neural data. Each time she touches him, her skin glows a fraction brighter, an electric current arcing around her fingertips. Dane wonders what it feels like to have that power coursing through his veins. He wonders if it intensifies everything, even the simplest touch. An image flickers unbidden, her pressing those glowing hands against his bare chest. He grits his teeth, shifting in his seat, cursing himself for getting distracted by a woman he barely knows. They arrive at the outpost hours later, docking in a private hangar. The place smells of oil, metal, and desperation. Dim lights flicker on and off, revealing a ragtag assortment of vessels, many bearing scars of illicit runs. They exit the shuttle, dragging their prisoner out. A quiet hush falls over the few workers standing around, sizing up the newcomers. Zyra's strange aura draws their eyes, but none approach. Something in her posture warns them away. Together, they carry the man to a back office where an official with a crooked nose and suspiciously watchful eyes sits behind a battered metal desk. Negotiations commence. Dane hates the greasy way the official's gaze lingers on Zyra, but she ignores it, focusing only on the numbers. In the end, they broker a deal. The official pays a hefty sum to take custody of the prisoner and whatever secrets he holds, with the promise to handle it quietly. Dane and Zyra split the credits without a word, though both sense this is only the beginning of a larger entanglement. They leave and find themselves outside on a narrow catwalk overlooking a smog-choked cityscape. Flickering neon signs line the streets below, while ships buzz overhead. Zyra rests her elbows on the railing, scanning the skyline. The subtle glow in her skin dims to a calmer green, a sign that her adrenaline has subsided. Dane stands beside her, arms folded, studying the swirl of red lights in the distance. "We did what we came to do," he says, his voice gruff. "Shouldn't that be the end?" She tilts her head to look at him. The shift in her eyes is so subtle in this dim light that it's almost imperceptible. "You want it to be over. I understand. But now that they know his value, more players will come. The data I extracted points to a conspiracy spanning multiple systems. Nobody's going to let us just walk away. We have a target on our backs." He runs a hand through his dark hair, grimacing. "So we run?" Her laugh is a low purr. "You strike me as a man who doesn't run." She leans closer, some magnetic current drawing them into a bubble of shared air. Her voice lowers, intimate. "Besides, you're curious about me. Deny it all you want, but I see it in your eyes. Why not see this through together?" His breath hitches, a surprising reaction. He hasn't felt in years her proximity, the scent, the lingering charge that seems to spark off her skin. Desire pulses through him, mingled with caution. How can I trust someone who kills as easily as she breathes? She smiles faintly, tilting her face so close he can feel the warmth of her breath. I could ask the same of you, Dane. You're not exactly a saint. His chest tightens, heart pounding in a slow, heavy thud. He wants to push her away, wants to pull her in. The tension is maddening. He swallows, stepping back. Fine, we'll see this through. But if you betray me... Her eyes glint, shifting a shade darker. You'll kill me. I know. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. They return to the ship, leaving the outpost behind. As they break orbit, the star's light washes over them, gold and brilliant through the cockpit windows. In that ephemeral glow, he catches another glimpse of Zyra's face, just a flicker of uncertainty under her confident exterior. Then it's gone, replaced by that smooth, unreadable calm. Days pass in a blur of tension and preparation. They trace the data's origin, following leads that direct them to a remote planet rumored to be the staging ground for a shadowy faction. The flight is long, giving them too much time in the cramped quarters of the shuttle. They maintain a strained distance, exchanging few words, yet the space crackles with unspoken energy. Every time they brush shoulders in the narrow corridor, every time they catch each other's eye, there's a spark of heat that neither acknowledges aloud. One evening, as the shuttle drifts in the planet's orbit, they suit up for an infiltration. The intelligence indicates a hidden fortress in the planet's desert wastes. They land under the cover of darkness, stepping out into swirling dust storms that sting the skin. Dane leads the way, scanning for threats, while Zyra moves with her, signature stealth. They find a camouflage door built into a rock face, sealed with advanced tech. Zyra's alien abilities prove useful once more, delivering that electric jolt into the circuitry, forcing the door to unlatch. Inside, they discover a corridor patrolled by drones. They dispatch the machines quickly, Dane blasting them with precision shots, Zyra leaping onto them from above with surgical strikes. Past the hallway, a series of labs hum with machinery. Computer banks, glowing canisters of unknown substances, and caged experiments line the walls. Whatever this faction is up to, it's bigger and more sinister than they imagined. An alarm triggers. Red lights flash. They're forced to split up when a squad of soldiers attacks, rifles blazing. Dane roars as he hurls himself behind a console, returning fire. Pulses zip by. One shot grazes his bicep, burning his skin. He clenches his teeth and retaliates, dropping 2 assailants with lethal blasts. Another tries to flank him. He ducks behind heavy machinery, ramming the butt of his pistol into the soldier's face. Blood and broken teeth spray. Dane seizes the rifle from the soldier's hands, finishing him with a shot to the chest. Meanwhile, Zyra seems to dance through the chaos, a living weapon of fluid motion. She vaults over a console, daggers whirling, severing throats before the men can scream. Sparks from damaged electronics shower the room as if celebrating the violence. The synergy between them is intoxicating to watch. Each fight is a choreographed storm of brutality and grace. They eventually find each other at a reinforced door leading to the facility's core. Breath ragged, bodies slick with sweat and speckled with blood, they lock eyes. They both know the next step is to push deeper, to confront whoever's behind these experiments. Their adversaries are no match for the combination of raw power and alien finesse that Dane and Zyra embody. Together, in a matter of minutes, they force their way into the central chamber, where they discover data archives containing plans for a galactic coup. Under the cold glow of overhead lights, they learn that high-ranking officials across multiple systems are in on this conspiracy. It's far too big for them to fight alone. Dane mutters a curse, slamming his fist onto a table. Zyra stands beside him, her skin shimmering in agitation, shifting from green to gold in pulses. "This is insane," she murmurs, scanning the data. "If they set these plans in motion, entire planets will be subjugated." Dane's anger flares. "And now we're in the crosshairs. We know too much." She exhales, one hand hovering over his shoulder, as though she's considering placing it there. Eventually, she does, her palm pressing gently into his muscled frame. The contact sends a subtle electric current tingling across his skin, and they both freeze. He turns to her. The intensity in her eyes is mirrored in his own. They've been fighting side by side for days, forging a bond of necessity, but it's more than that now. The trust they've shown each other in life-threatening moments, the charged glances, the clashing personalities, and the unspoken desire that's been simmering beneath the surface. It all surges forward. The swirling tension hits them like a wave. They don't have time to analyze or talk it out. The moment just happens. Dane pulls her closer, his large hands splaying across her waist. Zyra's breath catches, her lips parting. The hum of her skin intensifies, and he feels it through his shirt, an electrifying pulse that makes his body flush hot. Their eyes lock, no more words. He dips his head, capturing her mouth in a bruising kiss. It's a clash of wills at first, both powerful, both unyielding. She responds with equal ferocity, fingers tangling in his hair, pulling him in so that there's no gap between them. His pulse pounds. He can taste the salt of sweat on her lips, can sense the subtle charge that shifts through her body. She pushes him back against the table, and he knocks aside the datapad with a sweep of his arm. It clatters to the floor, the screen flickering. Neither of them cares. They're too consumed by the explosive contact, months or years of suppressed aggression, and lonely nights coming to a head in this raw, urgent union. His hands roam over her curves, feeling every contour, every tremor. She meets him with a hungry moan, pressing herself closer, her body arching against him. He tears off his blood-spattered jacket, the fabric ripping under his impatient grip. She kisses him along the line of his jaw, nipping lightly, sending sparks of sensation racing through his veins. He growls, maneuvering her onto the table's edge, his body settling between her thighs. She tilts her head back as he lowers his mouth to the hollow of her throat, tasting the alien spice of her skin. Her legs wrap around his hips, pulling him in. The electricity that radiates from her merges with the heat of his own desire, creating a charged, almost dizzying effect. It's a heady rush, making him feel hyper-alive. They tug at each other's clothes, breath ragged, each new patch of exposed skin a fresh source of sensation. He flattens a hand on her lower back, drawing her close, feeling the shift of her muscles as she leans into him. They're pressed together, the friction almost unbearable. She clutches at his shoulders, nails digging in. When their gazes meet again, they see mirrored hunger, raw and unrestrained. Neither bothers with niceties or gentle preludes. This is a desperate collision of need. Two warriors starved for something they never thought they'd find in the midst of chaos. His lips find hers once more, rough and consuming. She returns the kiss with a fierceness that makes his pulse hammer. Clothing is peeled away, every barrier removed until there's just skin on skin. The overhead lights flicker, the facility's alarm still echoing faintly in the distance. But they're lost in their own storm. Her skin hums, and each spot where he touches sends tingles of electric pleasure through them both. When she slides, her hands across his bare chest, the warmth of her palms melds with a slight electric buzz that makes his muscles tense. A jolt of primal excitement coursing from head to toe. They come together in a rhythm that starts hurried and forceful, a testament to the adrenaline still pumping from the battle. Their bodies align in perfect sync, slick with sweat and gritty from dust. Each thrust a jolt of shared desperation. His breath rasps against her neck and she arches against him, nails raking down his back with possessive fervor. The table beneath them shakes with each surge, data disks and loose equipment toppling to the floor. The pleasure builds quickly, spurred on by the aftermath of violence and the knowledge that they could be attacked again at any moment. Every gasp, every whispered curse, every moan is charged with life or death intensity. There's a rawness to their coupling that defies any semblance of gentle romance. It's an affirmation that they are still alive, bodies strong, hearts pounding in tandem. She gasps his name, a low, breathy sound that sets his nerves aflame. In response, he grips her hips harder, a grunt ripping from his throat as he drives, deeper. She meets him, movement for movement, matching his ferocity. Her eyes flash, shifting color with each wave of sensation, and he's struck by how impossibly alluring she is. They ride the crest of tension, each moment an ecstatic surge, closer to release. Finally, in a crescendo of panting cries and ragged thrusts, they both shatter, pulses thundering as pleasure sears through them. Her skin glows a brilliant golden green, and it feels like the entire room crackles with energy. He holds her tight, feeling her tremble against him, riding out the aftershocks of a climax that seems to reverberate through the air itself. Slowly, the frantic pace eases, replaced by breathy exhalations and the soft brush of her fingers tracing patterns on his shoulders. They're both drenched in sweat and panting, hearts still pounding at the edges of their euphoria. After a moment, reality seeps back in. The alarms, the flickering lights, the knowledge that they're in the heart of enemy territory. He eases back, steadying her on her feet, both of them wincing slightly at the lingering aches that battle and passion have left behind. They don't say much. Words feel unnecessary. The look they share says everything, an unspoken acknowledgement that something irrevocable just happened between them. She presses a final softer kiss to the corner of his mouth, then retrieves, her clothes from the floor, swiftly dressing. He follows suit, pulling on his pants, boots, and the tattered remains of his shirt. He wipes sweat from his brow, though the air is still charged, like the aftermath of a lightning strike. She glances at him, eyes settling on a warm, almost tender hue for a fraction of a second. Then they're back in the moment, back to wariness. Their emotional guard creeps up, a reflex for two killers who can't afford vulnerability. She checks the data console, ensuring the files are transferred. He secures the perimeter, collecting weapons from the fallen. Once they step out of that chamber, the intensity of their union lingers like a tangible scent, but they both adopt stoic masks. They exit the facility, leaving bodies and smouldering wreckage in their wake. Outside, the desert night is cold. The wind slashes at their exposed skin. Their ship sits hidden among rocks, and they hurry toward it, constantly scanning the surroundings for pursuers. The tension that envelops them now is different from before, underscored by the knowledge of what they shared, a secret heat that thrums beneath their cool exteriors. Once aboard the shuttle, they lift off. Diane sets a course for deep space, well away from the prying eyes of the conspirators. He slumps in the pilot's seat, exhausted. Bruises bloom across his arms and torso from the fight, and the scratch marks from Zyra's nails burn in a strangely pleasant way. She stands behind him, arms folded, studying the starfield on the monitor. The silence is thick, but not altogether uncomfortable. "So," he says, still catching his breath, "where does this leave us?" She exhales, leaning on the back of the co-pilot's chair. "We have the data. We know the scale of what's happening. The question is, do we fight it or do we run?" He turns, meeting her gaze. "Running's not really my style." Her lips curve. "I was hoping you'd say that." They plan. The galaxy is on the brink, and the conspirators won't rest until they have those files back. Dane knows this means war. Yet glancing at the woman before him, this lethal alien with skin that crackles with hidden energy, he feels a surge of confidence. In a single day, she's turned his assumptions upside down. He never thought he'd fight alongside someone so formidable, so mesmerizing, so undeniably addictive. Their next days are consumed with strategy, forging alliances with contacts Dine has made across his mercenary career. Some accept the challenge, others betray them. Each betrayal forces them into another brutal confrontation. Yet every time they fight, Dine and Zyra refine their synergy, growing attuned to each other's style. He blasts through obstacles with unstoppable force. She slips behind lines, silent as a phantom, dispatching threats with surgical precision. Their infiltration attempts on enemy strongholds become legendary rumors whispered in back alley pubs. They leave behind scorched labs, freed test subjects, and top-level conspirators either captured or dead. The chain of evidence grows, painting a picture of a shadow government orchestrating galactic domination. Somewhere in the thick of all this, they find time to give in to that scorching desire once more. Tangled limbs in a safe house, bodies pressed against each other in the tight corridor of a stolen shuttle, always a frantic, urgent coupling, as if tomorrow might never come. Eventually, they track down the conspiracy's puppet master to a fortified station orbiting a remote planet rich in raw resources. It's here the final reckoning is set to unfold. Dane's contacts have managed to gather a ragtag fleet of rebels, outcasts, and mercenaries. Zira has leveraged her own network of assassins and informants to coordinate a simultaneous strike. The plan is audacious. A full-scale assault on the station from the outside, while Zira and Dane infiltrate from within to take down the leaders. The station's defense perimeter is the first challenge. Laser batteries, automated drones, and fighter squads swarm their allies. Explosions light up the darkness of space like miniature suns. Dane pilots a stealth craft with Zira in the co-pilot seat, weaving through the chaos to dock at a hidden airlock. They slip inside. Immediately, the station's corridors come alive with hostile forces. It's chaos from the first moment. Bullets, plasma bolts, and the thunder of boots. They press forward, unstoppable, fueled by adrenaline and the knowledge that this is the make-or-break moment. If they fail, the conspiracy remains free to seize power. The corridors run red with the blood of those who stand in their way. Sirens scream, sprinklers hiss, and the flickering lights paint everything. In strobing patterns of destruction, they fight through a battalion. Dane slams into the rank after rank of soldiers, his fists and guns a whirlwind of carnage. Zira vanishes into the shadows, reappearing behind enemy lines with her knives flashing. When a giant combat mech corners, them in a loading bay, Zira uses her alien surge to short-circuit its power core, while Dane hurls a grenade into its open plating, blasting it into scraps of molten metal. Wounded, panting, they reach the core command center. Giant windows overlook the raging space battle outside. Asteroids spin in the distance, illuminated by laser fire. At the center console stands the puppet master, flanked by an elite guard. He's tall, draped in a black uniform that shimmers with advanced shielding tech. His sneer carries the confidence of a man who believes he's already won. Dozens of guns swivel in Dane and Zira's direction. Dane spits blood onto the floor, raising his pistol. "This ends now," the man laughs, gesturing for his guards to open fire. The room erupts in a ferocious firefight. Dane and Zira dive behind the cover of a giant terminal, bullets and plasma scorching the air. Zira signals to him with a quick gesture, pointing out a flank route while she draws a dagger. He nods, shifting position. They launch a perfectly timed offensive. Dane vaults over the barricade, unleashing a barrage of bullets. Several guards fall, their cries drowned by the roar of gunfire. Zira lunges in from the side, blades slicing throats before they can react. The floor is slick with blood. The stench of ozone and burnt flesh thicken the air. Soon, only the puppet master remains, kneeling, wounded. Dane stands over him, muzzle pointed at his head. Zira stares down, face set in cold fury. The man coughs, spitting out a laugh. "Kill me, and you kill only a figurehead. There are more of us, in every sector." Zira's voice is ice. "Then we'll find them too, one by one." He tries to raise a hidden pistol, but she's faster, sinking a dagger into his arm. He howls in pain. Dane steps in, pressing his boot to the man's chest. "Enough." He looks to Zira, who nods, reaching into the man's mind with her device just as she did before. The man's eyes roll back, the machine beeping, extracting codes, names, data. It will dismantle the entire network if they can survive long enough to use it. She withdraws, her skin glowing bright as the arcs of energy snap back into her. "We have everything." The station shudders, explosions rattle the walls. The final assault from outside is tearing it apart. Through the window, They see the Allied fleet closing in, bombarding strategic points. Fire and debris fill the void of space in a spectacular display. Dane grabs the puppet master by his collar and drags him along. They race through the shaking halls, sprinting for their docked ship. Chaos reigns as sections of the station explode. They blast away the last pockets of resistance. Finally, they board the stealth craft, launching just as the station ruptures behind them in a colossal inferno. The shockwave buffets the hull, nearly smashing them into drifting debris, but Dane wrestles the controls, guiding them to safety. The Allied fleet cheers on comm channels, victory in their voices. The conspiracy's headquarters is obliterated, and with the data Zira extracted, the entire network will be exposed, hunted down, destroyed. By the time they regroup with the others, exhaustion sets in. Dane and Zira hand off the puppet master, barely alive, to the authorities who have gathered. They transfer the data, ensuring it spreads across every corner of the galaxy, ripping the conspiracy out by its roots. The rebels cheer. The outcasts grin, seeing hope for once. Dane and Zira stand in the shadows, watching the celebration unfold from afar. Neither feels the need to join. Their satisfaction is in the quiet knowledge of a job done. Later, in the privacy of a makeshift camp on a floating platform far from the wreckage, they find each other again. They stand near a railing, starlight reflecting on the water below. His arms bear fresh bandages, and she has a bruised cheek that shifts green-purple with her alien physiology. They lock eyes, letting the silence settle. He breaks it first. "You know, we could have walked away at any point." She gives a small chuckle. "And missed all the fun?" He nods toward the stars. "Guess not." Then he drops his gaze to her face. What happens now? Her breath catches, and her eyes flicker through a range of colors before settling on a deep, warm hue. "We did what needed to be done. The galaxy's safer, at least for a while. We've both earned 1,000 lifetimes worth of bounties. But do you really see yourself going back to that old life?" "Because I don't." He steps closer, his large hand gently brushing a strand of her hair aside. The contact ignites a subtle current that sets his skin tingling. "Neither do I." They gaze at each other, the weight of everything that's happened, every drop of blood, every near-death escape, every moment of burning intimacy, hanging in the air. He cups her cheek. She leans into his touch. The compulsion to kiss her is strong. This time he doesn't hold back. They come together, not with the frantic desperation of a battlefield tryst, but with a lingering acknowledgement of what they have become to each other. There's still heat, yes, but also something deeper, forged in chaos and cemented by mutual respect. When they pull apart, she lays her forehead against his. Her skin glows softly, a gentle pulse that mirrors the beating of her alien heart. He feels it thrum against him, a reminder of how different they are, and yet how perfectly they fit. "Wherever we go," she whispers, "there will always be another fight, but maybe, for now, we can rest." He closes his eyes, inhaling the distinct scent of her. "Yeah," he murmurs, "for now." No more words are needed. The night stretches around them, peaceful for the first time in what seems like forever. Out there, in the vast darkness of space, threats will arise again, and wars will be waged. But here, on this platform, beneath the starlight, with the bruises of battle throbbing and the warmth of hard-earned closeness between them, they allow themselves a moment to simply be. They don't know what tomorrow holds, but they know they'll face it together. It's not a soft fairy tale ending. There's too much blood on their hands for that. Yet it's enough to stand side by side, hearts still pounding, bodies still buzzing from danger, and know they've found something worth fighting for. Something no enemy has managed to destroy. Something that surprises them both with its ferocity and endurance. The raw, unbreakable bond that can only form when two relentless souls collide in violence, lust, and, against all odds, love.